Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to be talking about PESPA, what it is, how you can bring it into your school and why it's so important that you understand it. So PESPA is physical education, school sport and physical activity. Yes, hello everyone. So in today's video, we're going to talk about PESPA, and the first thing we're going to talk about what it is. So like I said in the intro, you've got physical education, school sport, and physical activity. And it's shortened to PESPA in the industry. Now it's important you understand the difference between each three because you need children in your school to have access to every single one of these parts. So we're going to start with physical education. So physical education being what you would expect to see in your PE lessons at school. You expect to see an organised, structured activity that every child is attending 2 hours a week in a primary school, and it's going to be a lesson or a session that's designed to see an improvement and maybe a skills map that you're going to work towards throughout the 6 or 7 years that the children are in your school. So making sure the quality of these lessons are really good. You're going to be thinking about your lesson plans, your schemes of work, what type of sports you're going to be teaching, making sure you're hitting the national curriculum with those sections. So you're going to need to think about your swimming, your outdoor sports, gymnastics, dance. You're also going to have like outdoor activities in there as well. So that's where some schools might use like school trips for those sorts of stuff. But you can do that in PE lessons as well. So physical education is really about making sure children are learning, they're developing their skills within their time at your school. School sport is the second one that we're going to talk about. So school sport is not just the sport that you see like in a PE lesson, like the end of the lesson is a match, for example, although that it does sort of come under it. School sport is more talking about inter-school competitions and intra-school competitions. So when you're talking about your schoolhouse competitions, you might have like a netball competition that you work on, and it's year 1 and 2 netball competition, or year 5 and 6 football competition, and you've got your different houses and you organise a tournament. That helps children understand that element of winning and losing, and putting a strong sort of like understanding of a good sporting mentality into your children, understand how to win, how to lose, but also to be able to compete at the highest standard. You'll be able to do inter-school competitions, which might move into, just a small cluster into a bigger area, and you can represent your county and stuff like that as well. So you've got quite a lot to school sport, but inter-school being between different schools competing in different sports, and then intra-school, which is the competition within the school. Important to remember when you're talking about school competitions is that it's about children having that competitive element, and it's not just your strongest pupils. Sometimes you find, like, for example, I've run a year 5 and 6 football tournament and I invite 10 schools in. What you'll normally find is, although it's year 5 and 6, you'll probably only get year 6 pupils because they're naturally going to be the better players, and you're only going to get the top quality year 6s come to your tournaments. So what you might be able to do is look at adapted sports competitions, or introduce where they bring an A, B, C, D team sort of thing, something like that, to try and get as many children active. It'd be great if you can get every single child active in one inter-school or intra-school competition at least once in the school year. And finally is physical activity. So physical activity is where we're talking about how children are getting active and what your school is doing to allow children to get active. So for example, U Sports, we're a sports coaching company in Reading, and a lot of schools will bring us in and they'll pay for a coach to be present on the on the playground at lunchtime, and that coach will be engaging 30, 40 children, getting them involved in loads of different activities throughout the lunchtime, and something like that but you've also got investments into adventure playgrounds, into playground markings, into better quality for playgrounds, but also that activity of how are children coming to school. If they're all getting dropped off and it's a bit of maybe it's an issue in the wider community of your school, is that actually more people could be getting walked to school or cycling to school. Maybe you could bring in incentives, where those who are able to walk and they choose to walk into school get like a stamp which contributes towards a reward, or there's so many different things you can do out there. But physical activity is, it's just how active are your children. So children should be, by the government, they should be active for a minimum of 60 minutes per day. and each school has a responsibility to make sure they're active for at least 30 minutes in the school. So it's your break times, your lunch times, PE lessons, after school clubs, breakfast clubs. But your requirement is only 30 minutes. Now, I believe that every school should be getting every child active for at least an hour a day, whether that means mixing sort of physical activity into your maths lessons or your English lessons, or just making sure you're providing funding for children who are on free school meals to come in and to get involved in the extracurricular clubs because their parents can't pay, all that sort of stuff. So that sort of sums up physical activity. So 3 sections there: physical education, school sport, physical activity. And it's so important for your school to have a whole school approach towards each one of these sections, not just about focusing on the PE or just the school sport. It's about really making sure that every child in your school is having a positive experience with sport. So hopefully in today's video, that's helped you understand a little bit more about PESPA, what it is, and how you can make changes to your school to improve the quality of sport and activity that you're providing. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Please drop me a subscription and a like, and I'll see you in the next one.